What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that Old is no perfect movie, but it's from the M. Night Shyamalan, so I don't think that's a huge surprise for most people. But in any case, Old is about three groups of families who are on a vacation at this mysterious island resort, and when they arrive on a secluded beach exclusive to certain guests only, they discover that they begin to rapidly age a year every half hour they spend on this beach, and it becomes a race against time to escape, uncover why they were sent there in the first place, and to avoid losing their minds and sanity once the effects of the island start to weigh on them mentally. Old has such a great concept, a good cast and crew, the director himself included, because they're M. Night Shyamalan movies I like. Sixth Sense is overrated, but it still is pretty suspenseful. Unbreakable and Signs are my favorites without question. I'm not going to forgive him for Last Airbender, because why the fuck should I? Split was decent, I didn't see The Visit, and Glass had a good first half, and then a lot of his cliches just started to kick in, and it got really stupid after a while, and when it comes down to Old, it really is a shame that M. Night Shyamalan a Ding Dong, which, that reminds me, has that been ruled out as being too politically incorrect or some shit like that? We're not making fun of his last name or his heritage. We're making fun of how crappy he is as a filmmaker. And plus, calling him M. Night Shyamalan a dipshit or something like that, that's just too mean-spirited. But in any case, it's a shame that he resorts to the exact same cliches that we've come to expect from him. And unfortunately, even though this movie technically gets better as time passes, which... Wow, that just came to me on that one. Bottom line, the cons are just too hard to ignore. I do give Shyamalan credit that this might be his most ambitious movie in terms of filmmaking techniques and dark subject matter. The idea of a contained horror movie taking place on this large-scale, lavish island where the beauty of it offsets the darker imagery and themes that he is going for is a great idea. It's a tough one to pull off, and I do appreciate him for going for something a little more claustrophobic as opposed to the other movies he's made where the horror is centered around the entire world as opposed to just this one location. And when it comes down to the subject matter he's trying to convey, this idea that we feel as if we've aged so fast and that we've missed out so much on life is an easy thing to identify with. And during the climax especially, the characters we're supposed to root for have to learn to appreciate the things, the memories, and the people they already have in their lives in order to succeed, compared to the villains who are so obsessed with maintaining this perfect image of themselves that whenever they feel threatened or someone is superior than them, they decide to take out their frustrations once they've started to lose their minds. It's clear that the human drama of the themes is what's supposed to be scary, not false alarms, not jump scares, which those techniques amount to one scare in the entire movie, which that's really saying a lot. Shyamalan has never been a cheap filmmaker when it comes to horror, and if this was executed as well as it could have been, I think this would have been his best movie since Signs, if I'm being honest. And as unnatural as some of the performances are in this movie, Alex Wolff and Thomasin McKenzie as the older versions of the main siblings are definitely the emotional core of the film thanks to their work that rises so high above the material that they're given. They have to maintain this mentality of being 5 to 10 years old, still aging a little bit mentally, but a lot more physically, and they have to genuinely convey terror and fear associated with their ages. And they do an authentic job when it comes to their facial expressions and their body language whenever the scary moments have to kick in. And I gotta say, Eliza Scanlen, in the very little time that she has, actually does stand out as the other family's daughter. I like that she has this naive, innocent charm that even though you don't even remember her name, you do feel sorry for her, and it actually made me kind of appreciate the relationship that she has with Alex Wolff. It's where the conversations felt their most natural when they're exploring the themes of how they want to live out certain memories to feel as if they've lived their lives to the fullest. Gael García Bernal and... I'm trying to remember this lady's name. Vicky Krieps? I don't know how to pronounce Luxembourgian, okay? I'm sorry. The two of them were fine overall, and I do appreciate that the moments where they're trying to mend their broken relationship do have moments of subtlety, but the moments that they have are so scattered and infrequent throughout the plot thanks to the incredibly fast pace that Shyamalan uses with this movie that it was hard for me to care as much as he wanted to. one of the big problems with this movie is that it starts from beginning to end entirely on this island. And normally with a contained thriller like this, that would be a great idea so that we could uncover mysterious aspects of each character as time progresses. And you get that a little bit with some of the villains. But when it comes to the family dilemma that they're experiencing while they're going on this vacation, it's even when they're trying to be subtle, it's explicit in the exposition what they're experiencing, what they're going to learn in the end, and there's no element of surprise to it, even when you're reminded that this stuff is going on, because the rest of the time you're so distracted by the rapid aging effects that are happening on this island. Now, I'm going to get this part out of the way just because it's a review of a Shyamalan movie. I'd be completely missing out if I said that the dialogue was as horrendous as you would expect it to be. And no shock, it does make really talented actors give some of their most embarrassing work ever. And I don't blame them for it. One of the things that Shyamalan thinks is a great way to develop characters in order to save time is by having them express their name and their occupation to, I guess, sum up their backstory and their role in the plot in one sentence once they're introduced without any segue whatsoever. And as expected, the actors all come across as blank slates. And honestly, if the big twist in the movie, because why wouldn't there be a twist, that one of the family members was the one spying on them and it would explain why they're acting so unnatural, that would actually make sense. But someone like Ken Leung from Lost and Rush Hour, every single time, his entire running gag is him repeating his name and his occupation every time a character forgets, and he gets so unbelievably pissed off out of nowhere. It was so awkward and tedious that even the first time it wasn't funny. I just completely facepalmed and I sat there and went, wow, all these years later, Shyamalan, you have learned absolutely nothing as a screenwriter, or you're just completely in denial. Seriously, Leung had more chemistry with Chris Tucker than he did with his wife in the movie. Granted, the wife wasn't well written either. She's the psychotherapist, and once she said that, I would expect her to be the leader because she would know what to say and how to say it to the right people. But if I'm being honest, when she's trying to offer support or come up with a practical solution, she talks to everyone like they're kindergartners as opposed to patients who are in desperate need of help. And not only did it make her suck at her job, it also didn't make me feel sorry for a certain medical condition that she experiences frequently, which they kind of play it up for laughs during the first scene. I get why they were trying to kind of take light off of the situation, but the jokes that they came up with just didn't work. A joke that was funny once or twice, and as expected, it wasn't supposed to be funny, was that Rufus Sewell, the most obvious villain ever just by looking at him as this deranged, possibly racist, or I think that's what they were trying to set up in the one or two scenes that he talks to the one black guy on the beach who was already there before all these families show up. And I gotta say, Pierre as the original guy that showed up, he was giving a good performance, and I like that the movie tries to set him up as a potential villain, but it goes nowhere. It's just a stupid red herring, and it made absolutely no sense. But going back to Sewell, I guess the way to develop the mental derangements of his character, every time he loses track of a conversation, he goes back to this one question that he has for everyone. The question that I put on the thumbnail, and I swear to God, it may sound stupid on paper, it may not sound funny, but it's going to be the next, what? No. Or, you like hot dogs, right? They're a good source of protein. It'll be one of those moments. I guarantee that, because it comes out of left field. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything in the plot. It wasn't even foreshadowed before they got onto the beach. And Sewell, for whatever reason, says his line so seriously and so over the top that I have absolutely no idea what he was thinking. I have absolutely no idea why he was trusting it. But once it kept bringing it up in the middle and the end of the movie, it lost the unintentional hilarity, and it just got fucking stupid. I get that it was supposed to establish that he had a mental disorder, but it was so poorly established that I didn't even realize that until I looked the movie up on Wikipedia, and chances are I was supposed to discover that in the theater. The other thing that took the tension out of the movie was that a lot of the key crucial scenes are just characters standing around in a circle hypothesizing over what the effects of the island are, why they were chosen to begin with, and it's told through the most scientifically accurate dialogue possible that it actually makes some Christopher Nolan conversations feel natural. This is actually one of the examples where being scientifically accurate is proof that it doesn't automatically make your movie good. I mean, it's fiction. It's not even science fiction, because the island itself is a fantasy. This is a slightly better version of Jeff Wadlow's Fantasy Island or some shit like that. But there are so many potential moments where it could have just been the groups finding multiple different ways to escape the island through trial and error that could lead to some psychological and body horror scares, things that you would expect from a movie about rapid aging being the thing that is supposed to be scary. And honestly, the body transformations are rarely, if ever, frightening. There are moments where the makeup and digital effects are decent and lead to some creepy moments, like when the doctor has to perform surgery on this one family member, and that was one of the subtler moments of the film. Or, in my opinion, the greatest death scene where the certain family member has to contort. It's done in a cliched way, but it's such a disturbing thing to look at that it's instantly creepy. But that is kind of the problem. These moments are just there for shock value, and they weren't scary enough, especially because a lot of the violence felt sanitized. There was almost no blood, no gore, no goo or gangrene or anything like that, and I don't understand why. I get that Shyamalan's never been big into blood and gore, and he's usually good at implying it in a way that's just as scary, if not scarier, than showing blood and guts, but here it felt like he was trying to hide it. If this were an R-rated movie, which he's done that in the past, I don't see why he wouldn't do that here. And if someone were to tell me that this was an R-rated movie, I would call bullshit, because there's honestly no signs to really... God, I'm coming up with so many stupid puns like this. There's no signs that it would have been. And last point, some people have been praising the cinematography for being the thing that stands out in one of the greatest aspects, and I don't know, it kind of goes back and forth from being artsy and claustrophobic like I would want it to being unplanned, awkwardly done, and just flat out unnecessary. Because Shyamalan has always had an obsession with trying to do Spielberg wonders, where he would portray as many scenes as possible in these master shots where they would zoom in, zoom out, they would pan back and forth between characters so that every time a character gave a reaction, it would be a lot more suspenseful because it had been withdrawn for such a longer period of time. And Unbreakable, in my opinion, I think is the prime example where those techniques work the best on him, but there are so many long takes that pan in a 360 way or pan back and forth like it's standard coverage, where characters are still talking, but the camera is still moving, and there's plenty of empty space in the frame, or there are moments where characters are literally on the edge of the frame where it just looks fucking ugly, unpleasant, and awful, and the camera is locked down. There are some occasional crappy handheld shots when a character runs, but it's not like this was done by accident. I get that it's supposed to make us feel as closed in and uncomfortable as the characters, but the shot itself is just still unpresentable. It's out of focus, and that's really the problem with Old. As expected with a bad Shyamalan movie, it's just out of focus. And for all those reasons, I'm going to give it a 1.5 out of 5. I'm glad I saw it to get out of my house, and there were a few funny things and a few decent things about it, but it just wasn't enough. Well, in any case, thanks as always for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Old if you've seen it. When was the last time you enjoyed a Shyamalan movie? For me, that would definitely be Split. Whatever it is, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews. Be sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out my other videos at Sharp Edge Cinematics. Take care.